My ex-wife showed up at my front door with a grocery store bouquet and a face full of fake tears the same week a local news station ran a segment calling me the miracle man who beat the odds and won a multimillion-dollar settlement, and the first thing that ran through my head when I saw her wasn't how much I used to love her, or how badly she'd hurt me, it was, of course. Of course you're here now. She stood on my porch like she still lived there, shifting from foot to foot, her eyes running over the new siding, the fresh paint, the nicer car in the driveway. "You look good," she said, like it was an accusation. "Healthy." The last time she'd seen me in person, I had been bald and gray and 35 going on 70, with a hospital bracelet still on my wrist and a chemo port in my chest, watching her walk out of my life with a suitcase and a line I will never forget. "I didn't sign up to be a nurse," she'd said. "I'm sorry you're sick, but I'm still young. I want a life." She'd said it with her back half turned, car keys in her hand. Now she was here with daisies and cheap perfume, tilting her head just so, the way she used to when she wanted something. "Can we talk?" she asked softly. For a second, some stubborn ghost of the husband I used to be wanted to step aside and let her in, make her tea, give her a blanket, ask her what was wrong. Old instincts die hard. But the scars across my chest pulled when I straightened my shoulders, and the weight of the settlement check I'd deposited 2 months earlier sat steadier in my mind than any memory of the woman in front of me. "We're talking," I said. "What do you want, Claire?" She flinched at my tone like she'd expected at least a little warmth. "I heard about your case," she said. "About the settlement. And that you're in remission. I'm really happy for you, James." The way she put the remission second told me everything I needed to know before we even sat down. But if you want to understand why her showing up wasn't as simple as slamming the door in her face, you need to know how we got to the point where my wife could leave me in the middle of chemo and still think she might have a shot at walking back into my house. When I met Claire, I was 27, healthy, and stupid in all the ways you're allowed to be when your body hasn't betrayed you yet. I worked as an engineer for a mid-sized manufacturing company, decent pay, good benefits, nothing glamorous. She was a receptionist in the same building, the kind of pretty that made people turn twice. Big eyes, easy laugh, an instinct for how to make whoever she was talking to feel like they were the only one in the room. I fell hard and fast. We started with lunches in the break room, then drinks after work, then weekends together. Claire liked nice things, but who doesn't? She liked dinners where the napkins were cloth instead of paper. She liked weekend trips instead of movie nights on the couch. I grew up lower middle class, so splurging on her felt less like a red flag and more like getting to play adult. My mom raised 2 kids on a diner waitress income after my dad left, and I watched her stretch pennies until they squealed, so there was something intoxicating about being the guy who could say, "I've got it," when the bill came. We got married after 2 years. Small wedding, rented hall, my mom crying in the front row. Claire looked like every dream I'd ever had of a bride. For a while, we were happy in the simple way that doesn't look like much from the outside. We worked, we watched shows, we argued about whose turn it was to take out the trash. We tried for kids and it didn't happen, and that hurt, but we were still us. If there were cracks, they were hairline. Little comments here and there that I filed under, everyone has flaws. When I turned down overtime because I was tired from a long week, she'd say, "Must be nice not to want more for us." When I suggested we skip a fancy trip one year to pay down some debt, she pouted for days. "I don't want to live small my whole life," she'd say. "What's the point of working if we never enjoy it?" I told myself she just had big dreams, that I'd catch up. Then, at 34, I got sick. It started small. I was tired all the time. Not, I stayed up too late, tired. Bone tired. My joints ached. I had night sweats. Bruises popped up on my arms from nothing. I lost weight without trying. My mom, who'd seen more than her share of illness from regulars at the diner, was the one who pushed me to see a doctor. "This isn't normal," she said, tapping my forearm where another bruise had bloomed. "Go." I went expecting some lecture about stress and diet. I came home with a referral for a hematologist and a word I'd only ever heard in commercials. Lymphoma. The biopsy confirmed it. Non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Treatable, they said. Often curable. But the treatment would be rough. Chemo. Maybe radiation. Time off work. "We caught it earlier than some," the oncologist said. "That's in your favor." The word "some" didn't feel as comforting as she probably meant it to. When I told Claire, she froze. She was sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone, some reality show murmuring in the background. "I have cancer," I said, because there's really no delicate way to put it. She stared at me for a long second. "Are you sure?" she asked finally, as if I'd mixed it up with a cold. "Yes," I said. "They did a biopsy. I start chemo in 2 weeks." She put her phone down slowly. "Chemo," she repeated. "Like, you're going to lose your hair and be sick all the time." "Probably," I said. "It's going to be a rough few months." She swallowed, eyes shiny, and for a moment I saw genuine fear. She hugged me, held on a little too tight. "We'll get through it," she said into my shoulder. "We're strong. We'll get through it." For a while, it seemed like she meant it. She came with me to the first couple of chemo sessions, sitting in the uncomfortable chair beside me, scrolling on her phone with one hand and holding mine with the other. She helped me when the nausea hit, holding a bowl when I couldn't make it to the bathroom, pressing a cold cloth to my forehead. She made soup, fussed over medication schedules, changed our dinner plans when I was too tired. People told me I was lucky to have such a supportive wife. But chemo isn't just a bad week. It's months of feeling like your body is a war zone. The novelty wears off. The sympathy wears thin. The fear settles into something heavier. I lost my hair. I lost more weight. Food tasted like metal. I got infections. I ended up in the hospital twice with a fever. I missed more work than I intended. My company, who'd always praised my reliability, started sending curt emails about coverage and productivity. When my short-term disability kicked in, it was less than my regular pay. Bills piled up. The strain showed. Claire started sighing more. Rolling her eyes when I asked for help with small things. Making comments that stung and then saying she was just tired when I called her on them. One night, when I asked if she could grab my medication from the pharmacy on her way home because I was wiped, she snapped, "I'm not your errand girl, James." "I can't drive today," I said quietly. I almost fell asleep standing up in the shower. She threw her purse on the counter. "I know you're sick," she said. "But my life didn't stop. I work too. I'm exhausted." "I know," I said, because what else was there to say? She got the meds. But the resentment in the air was thick enough to taste. Then came the job. Officially, they didn't fire me because I had cancer. Officially, my position was restructured and, unfortunately, eliminated due to budgetary concerns. The timing was impeccable. Right after one of my hospitalizations. Right after my doctor had recommended another 3 months off. HR sent a letter full of legal language that said, in essence, "Good luck out there." When I told Claire, she stared at me like I'd personally decided to stop working. "So what, what, James," she said. Live off my paycheck and vibes. I have disability, I reminded her. And savings. And Cobra. We'll be tight, but, tight, she said bitterly. You mean broke. You mean no more trips, no more dinners out, no more anything. Just bills and doctors and you lying on the couch. I didn't ask for this, I said, my own frustration flaring. You think I like it? She looked at me for a long second, and something cold moved behind her eyes. You're not the only one this is happening to, she said. It's happening to me too. That sentence stuck to my ribs. Over the next couple of months, her distance grew. She stopped coming to chemo with me, saying it was too depressing. She'd drop me off at the hospital and pick me up hours later, barely looking up from her phone. The physical affection dried up. No more spontaneous hugs, no more lingering kisses. Bed became a place she slept on the far edge, turning away from my coughing. Sex disappeared entirely, which I could understand on one level. Nothing about me felt sexy anymore, but there was a layer of disgust in her avoidance that cut deeper than any physical rejection. I tried to talk to her. Maybe we should see a counselor, I suggested once. This is hard on both of us. We could use help. She snorted. We can't afford a counselor, she said. Unless you find one that takes vibes as payment. It only got worse when it became clear the treatments weren't going as smoothly as hoped. My scans were mixed. Some progress, some stubborn spots. The doctor started talking about aggressive options. A stem cell transplant was mentioned. Bigger risks, longer recovery. I saw Claire's face close off like a door slamming. How long will you be out of commission if you do that? She asked the doctor bluntly. It's a big deal, the doctor said carefully. Months. But it could be your best shot. On the drive home, Claire gripped the steering wheel so hard her knuckles were white. So that's it, she said. Our 30s are just gone. Years of this. If we don't do it, I might not have a 40s, I said quietly. She didn't answer. A week after that appointment, I came home from a particularly brutal chemo session to find a half-packed suitcase on the bed. We going somewhere? I joked weakly, because sometimes humor is all you have. Claire jumped like I'd caught her doing something worse than throwing clothes in a suitcase, which, in hindsight, I had. I'm going to stay with my sister for a while, she said. We've been talking, Anne. I need space. Space from what? I asked, my voice coming out more bewildered than angry. From this, she said, gesturing vaguely at me. At the room. At the silent four-pole in the corner. From watching you waste away. From being the only adult in this house. I'm literally fighting for my life, I said. I know, she said, tears welling up. And that's awful. It's awful, James. But I didn't sign up to be a caregiver. I'm sorry you're sick, but I'm still young. I want a life. I want fun. I want to go places and not feel guilty for being happy. I can't do that here. The words lodged in my chest like shrapnel. So you're just leaving, I said slowly. In the middle of my treatment. You have your mom, she said. You have doctors. You'll be fine. I might die, I said, because sometimes you have to put the ugly thing out loud. She flinched. Don't say that, she snapped. God. You always make everything so heavy. Cancer is heavy, I said. Marriage is heavy. You promised, I promised, in sickness and in health, not in endless, miserable, never-ending sickness that ruins both our lives, she said, and there it was, the cruelty under the tears. I can't do this. I'm sorry. She zipped the suitcase. At the door, she turned back. Maybe if you get better, she said, we can talk. But I can't sit around waiting to find out if my husband is going to die. I can't live like that. Then she left. Just like that. No dramatic slammed door, no thrown ring. She took her suitcase, her favorite clothes, most of the fancy decor she'd insisted on buying, and walked out. A week later, I was served with divorce papers in my hospital room. Irreconcilable differences. My nurse looked at me with wide, horrified eyes when she realized what the envelope contained. I'll give you some privacy, she said. I signed eventually. I didn't have the energy to fight over IKEA furniture. My mom moved in with me for a while, bringing casseroles and quiet strength. Some friends faded away, not knowing what to say. A few stuck around. Those few felt like a lifeline. I went through the stem cell transplant. It was hell. I almost died twice from infections. There were days I wanted to beg them to stop, to let me go. But slowly, my body clawed its way back. My hair grew in, thin and patchy at first, then thicker. The scans started using words like remission. Partial. Then full. Somewhere in that blur of hospital rooms and beeping machines, I'd also talked to a lawyer. Getting fired while on chemo didn't sit right with me. My mom's friend knew someone who specialized in employment law. I assumed they'd say there was nothing to be done. Instead, they raised an eyebrow at the timing of my restructuring and asked for every email, every performance review, every doctor's note I could find. You might have a case, the lawyer said. It'll be long. It'll be stressful. But what they did looks a lot like discrimination. We filed. The company fought. They denied everything. They painted me as unreliable, as having performance issues before my diagnosis, which was news to the me who had always gotten meets or exceeds expectations. Depositions dragged on. There were days I regretted starting the process. I had enough on my plate. But my lawyer kept saying, we'll get there. 2 years later, we did. Right around the time my oncologist said the word remission without qualifiers, my former employer decided they didn't want to take their chances in front of a jury. We settled. The amount was more money than I'd ever seen in one place. Not billionaire money. But life-changing money for a guy who grew up watching his mom count tips at the kitchen table. Enough to pay off my medical debt, buy a modest but nice house, put something away for retirement, maybe travel if I felt up to it. The local news did a segment. Cancer survivor wins settlement after being fired during treatment. They shot some footage in my backyard. Me sitting in a chair under a tree, talking about resilience and justice and hoping my case would help others. They asked if there was anyone I wanted to thank on camera. I thanked my mom. My doctor. My lawyer. I did not mention Claire. She watched it anyway. I know because she told me so, standing on my porch with her bouquet. I saw you on TV, she said. You looked great. Strong. Like yourself again. That was kind of the point, I said. Remission will do that. She flinched, then rallied. Can I please come in, she asked. This is weird on the porch. I thought about all the late nights we'd spent on porches together before, at our old place, talking about dreams and vacations and dumb neighbors. Then I thought about the hospital bracelet. The suitcase. I didn't sign up for this. We can talk out here, I said. Her smile wavered but she stepped back onto the mat. Okay, she said. Look, I know I'm the last person you want to see. I know what I did was awful. Awful is one word, I said. I can think of others. She swallowed. I panicked, she said. I was scared. You were so sick, and everything felt like it was closing in. I wasn't strong enough. I made the worst decision of my life. You didn't just leave, I said. You served me divorce papers in the hospital. My sister made me, she blurted. She said I had to protect myself legally, in case you know. She said if you died with all that debt, I'd be ruined. I listened to the wrong people. I raised an eyebrow. Your sister also made you say you didn't sign up to be a nurse, I asked. She winced. I was angry, she said. I didn't mean it like it sounded. How did you mean, I want a life, then, I asked. Because it sounded pretty clear from where I was sitting. Tears welled up in her eyes. Once upon a time, that would have melted me. Now, I noticed how quickly they came when she felt cornered. I'm not here to fight, she said. I'm here to say I'm sorry. I left when you needed me most. I'll regret that forever. But when I saw you on the news, when I saw you healthy and happy, I realized. I still love you, James. I never stopped. I was just selfish and stupid and scared. But we have a second chance now. You're better. We could start over. Really do it right this time. I've changed. There it was. The pitch. The we like she hadn't been off living some other life while I was throwing up in plastic bins. You've changed, I repeated. In what way? She hesitated for a fraction too long. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she said. About what matters. About loyalty. About not running from hard things. Have you been doing that thinking before or after your boyfriend dumped you? I asked. Her head snapped up. What? She said. I shrugged. Small town, I said. People talk. It wasn't exactly a state secret that you moved in with some guy 2 months after you left. Or that he left you when he got laid off last winter. Funny how that works. Color rose in her cheeks. That's not fair, she said. I was lonely. I thought you were going to die. I was grieving too. You were updating Instagram from Cabo while I was in the transplant ward, I said. Grief with room service. Must be nice. She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried a different angle. Look, she said, taking a step closer, clutching the flowers. I know I don't deserve you. I know I messed up. But we had good years too. Don't they count for something? We could use this money to build the life we always talked about. Travel. Buy a real house. Have the kids we wanted. I've been praying for another chance. When I saw you on TV, I thought, maybe this is God telling me to stop running. I almost laughed. She'd never mentioned God once in our marriage unless she was using, oh my God, as filler. You keep bringing up the money, I said. I've mentioned my cancer twice and you've mentioned the settlement 4 times. You hear yourself. Of course I'm happy you got compensated, she said quickly. What they did to you was wrong. You deserve to live comfortably after everything you went through. You didn't think that when you left, I said. Back then I was just a drain. A problem. A future pile of medical debt. I was wrong, she said. I see that now. I should have stayed. I should have supported you. I hate myself for leaving. But I can't change it, I can only ask you to give me a chance to make it up to you. This was the moral dilemma everyone loves in theory and hates in reality. The prodigal spouse coming back, the beggar at the door. Some people would say the noble thing is to take them back, to forgive, to demonstrate how large your heart is. Others would say slam the door, call her names, rub the money in her face. The truth was somewhere messier in the middle. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want her back. What I wanted was clarity. So I decided to give her enough rope to show me exactly what she was after. Okay, I said. Let's say, hypothetically, I considered this. Starting over. How do you see that working, exactly? Her face lit up, hope flaring so bright it was almost painful to look at. We could date again, she said quickly. Take it slow if you want. I could move in eventually. We could sell this place and get something bigger together. Put both our names on it. There it was. Both our names, I repeated. On the house I bought with settlement money that compensates me for getting fired while you were already packing your suitcase. She bit her lip. It's not about the house, she said. It's about being a real team this time. About building a future together. Have you been working? I asked. She shifted. Here and there, she said. It's been hard. The breakup, it threw me. And then the rent, so you're behind on rent, I said. That's what you're telling me. Silence answered. The flowers in her hand drooped slightly. You think I don't see it, I said quietly. You didn't show up when I was bald and broke. You showed up when my hair grew back and there was a dollar sign attached to my name. You didn't come to my hospital bed. You came after my TV interview. Tears spilled over now, streaking her mascara. I know how it looks, she said. But I swear, it's not just the money. I miss you, James. I miss us. I lie awake at night thinking about all the ways I failed you. For a moment, my chest ached. Because I had loved her. Deeply. Because there were good years. Because we had inside jokes and traditions and a playlist that still popped up at random and stabbed me right in the heart. It would have been so easy to pretend those were the only truths. But love without trust is just a fancy form of self-harm. I'm glad you're thinking about it, I said. You should. That's called having a conscience. But a guilty conscience doesn't earn you a second shot at my life. Her face crumpled. So that's it, she said. You're just done. Claire, I said, my voice tired, you were done 3 years ago. I'm just catching up. We stood there for a long moment, the ghost of our marriage heavy between us. Finally, I sighed. Look, I said. I don't want you homeless. I'm not a monster. I can help you with first month's rent somewhere, if you need it. Call it a severance package for the life we almost had. Her eyes flickered. Hope, then disappointment, then anger. You'll help me with rent but not take me back, she said. What is that? Boundaries, I said. You made your choices. I lived with the consequences. Now you get to live with yours. I don't wish you harm. But I also don't owe you another chance to hurt me. She stared at me like she didn't recognize the man in front of her. Maybe she didn't. Maybe the version of me she'd known was softer, more eager to please, more willing to twist myself into knots rather than watch anyone else be uncomfortable. Cancer and betrayal have a way of burning that out of you. So you're just this now, she said. Cold. No, I said. I'm warm, actually. With the people who earned it. With the mom who slept in hospital chairs so I wouldn't be alone. With the EMT neighbor who shoveled my driveway all winter when I was too weak. With the friend who sat in silence with me when I couldn't handle words. My warmth is not a public utility anymore. You don't get to stroll back in and flip the switch like the last 3 years didn't happen. She took a step back, then another. Everyone said you'd be different after all this, she said quietly. I didn't think they meant this. Different doesn't always mean worse, I said. Sometimes it just means less willing to be used. For a second, I thought she might throw the flowers at me. Instead, she looked down at them like she'd never seen them before, then dropped them gently onto the porch. You'll regret this, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. I shook my head. I already did my lifetime quota of regret with you, I said. I'm good. She turned and walked down the steps. At the curb, she hesitated. For what it's worth, she said without looking back, I am glad you didn't die. For what it's worth, I replied, me too. She got into her car and drove away. I watched until the taillights disappeared. Then I looked down at the bouquet on my porch. I thought about picking it up, putting it in a vase, salvaging what I could. But some things you don't repurpose. I left it there. By the next morning, the flowers were wilted. I tossed them in the trash. A few weeks later, I heard she'd moved to another state to live with a cousin. Someone said she was working retail. Someone else said she was already dating again. People always have opinions. Some told me I was heartless for not giving her another chance. She was young, they said. She was scared. Don't you believe in forgiveness? I do believe in forgiveness. I work at it every day, for my own sake more than hers. I've forgiven her enough that I don't wake up angry anymore. Enough that I can pass a restaurant where we used to eat without feeling like I can't breathe. Enough that when I picture her now, I mostly feel a sad sort of pity for a person who thought love was only worth sticking around for when it came with health and wealth attached. But forgiveness isn't the same thing as reconciliation. Forgiveness is saying, you no longer get to dictate how I feel. Reconciliation is saying, you can be close enough to hurt me again. Those are not the same choice. I got sick. My wife left me for another man when the future looked like hospital rooms and medical bills. Then she tried to come back when I recovered and came into money. The unexpected ending isn't that I took her back and we lived happily ever after, or that I destroyed her life in some grand display of revenge. The unexpected ending is quieter. I moved on. I learned to love myself better than she ever did. And I decided that the next person who walks into my house will be someone who knows that, in sickness and in health, is a promise you keep, not a line you negotiate when the numbers in the bank account change.